The National Youth Commission, or NYC, maintains its position as the voice and advocate of the Filipino youth. As the country's sole policymaking institution for the youth sector, NYC is mandated to develop a national comprehensive and coordinated program for the Filipino youth. This is why NYC regularly conducts the National Youth Assessment Study, or Nyas, which seeks to identify the priority needs, challenges, and prevailing attitudes and values of the youth.
Within the context of the pandemic, 2021 ushered in the formulation of the fifth Nyas, which is a descriptive, cross-sectional study that used data analysis methods based on the following youth groups: age, sex, schooling, membership in organizations, and special groups. 4,103 Filipino youth aged 15 to 30 from 17 regions participated in the study. Among the 4,103 respondents, 5.8% of them are aged 15 to 17 years old, 71.4% are aged 18 to 24 years old, and 22.9% of them are aged 25 to 30 years old.
The Nyas is focused on the 9 centers to determine their thoughts, opinions, and problems of the topic. The 9 centers of participation are health, education, economic empowerment, social inclusion and equity, peace building and security, governance, active citizenship, environment, and global mobility. Because the study was conducted during the pandemic, the questionnaire included questions about the youth's experience with the COVID-19 pandemic.
When we talk about health, we talk about both the youth's physical health and mental health concerns. The pandemic has significantly affected the lifestyle of the youth. For example, a substantial chunk of the participants did not have a regular physical exercise schedule. Frequency of exercise activities among the youth varies also. For example, 46.14% only exercise when they are in the mood. 20.67% exercise at least twice a week. 12.31% exercise at least once a week. In terms of food intake, 84.5% of the respondents believe that they eat the right food in the right quantities. In other words, 15.5% felt that they're not eating the right amount of nutritious food.
Most of the surveyed youth, 88.6%, have not tried smoking. The youth participants who have tried smoking used both cigarettes, 11.4%, and e-cigarettes or vape, 11.1%. The use of e-cigarettes or vaping has become more popular among youth smokers, as 7.5% claim to be smoking e-cigarettes or vape, compared to only 6.1% smoking cigarettes in the last 12 months. Vaping percentages are noticeably higher compared to smoking across the youth's education and work status.
When talking about chronic ailments, the top 3 chronic ailments reported by 9.6% of the respondents are as follows. Number 1. High uric acid, 35.35%. Number 2. Hypertension, 21.46%. Number 3. High cholesterol, 16.67%.
Now, let's go to mental health. This study showed us that 90% of the surveyed youth expressed awareness of different mental health disorders. 31% of the youth participants confirmed that they experienced suicidal ideation or considered taking away their own lives. It is a good thing that 97% of the survey respondents recognize the need for professional help when facing mental health issues.
We asked the youth what the most important coping mechanisms they should have to combat mental health concerns. Most of the youth respondents cited family bonding as the most important support mechanisms in handling mental health concerns, or 96.7%, followed by good quality friendship, or 92%, and sharing of good and positive stories, or 84.4%. Other alternatives were also tagged by a good number of respondents as helpful support mechanisms, meaningful work, or the satisfaction derived from work accomplishment, registered highest among 78.2% of the youth participants. This was followed by living a mature and spiritual life, or 76.1%, receiving recognition, encouragement, or praise, or 73.3%, and financial security, 71%.
Let's move to the next important input to the youth's development: education. Lockdowns and the pandemic made a major impact in the country's education system. One impact of the pandemic is that 24% students had to help their families to have income so that they can help sustain their needs during the period.
The lockdowns inevitably required transition from full face-to-face education to online mode of learning. However, 34% of the students had difficulty with the transition, citing that they do not have the means or gadgets to participate. 69.71% used only mobile phones, while the rest used laptops, desktop computers, and tablets. 83.34% had troubles with their internet connection.
How do they try to learn more? When asked about activities they engaged in to increase their knowledge, the highest recorded responses among the youth were the following: 34.6% study on their own, 26.1% watch webinars, which became popular during the lockdown, 24.6% enrolled in school, 14.7% asked tutorials from friends. It seems that learning efficiency among the youth was greatly impacted by the transition of the education system. 44.44% of our student respondents stated that the shift to the new mode was effective to them. Only 17.43% felt that the strategies were beneficial to them. At the same time, the new normal teaching and learning modalities also led to a decline in academic motivation to 46.9%.
After the two important centers of participation, we move on to the center of participation, which is also critical, especially for the youth, to gain greater access to different opportunities. Economic empowerment pertains to participation of the youth in economic development efforts.
Before the pandemic, 30% of the youth's income was sourced from employment, 30.1%, regular allowance from local sources, 27.7%, regular allowance from abroad, 5.5%, and provisions from the institution, 2.1%. There were also 27.2% of the respondents who mentioned that they have no source of income before 2020. When the pandemic hit, 32.5% reported that their allowances were either discontinued or reduced. Even allowances from abroad, which were initially enjoyed by 5.5% of the respondents, shrank further during the pandemic, as OFW providers were forced to go home, according to 2% of the affected youth.
When we talk about the youth's participation in social inclusion and equity efforts, we can see that facets of inclusivity issues, especially among the marginalized, are being regarded as important among the youth. Regarding the topic of LGBTQ+, we can note that 66.32% of the total youth sample considers the LGBTQ+ community to be accepted in Philippine society. And 72.51% of the youth respondents believe that the Bill on Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity Expression, or SOGI, must be passed into law by the Congress. We asked the marginalized youth groups about their perception and values as a youth. They said that the following are essential values: freedom, having the time and energy, and the support from family and friends are considered essential values. Additionally, those that they desire most include the following: happiness, gratitude for life and family, recovery from pandemic and from other life challenges, education, and a job. These values indicate a shift towards greater self-awareness and personal growth.
Overall, when it comes to their perception and values, The findings indicate a shift towards a more holistic and self-reflective approach to life, where personal growth and well-being are prioritized.
When asked about what could be beneficial to specific youth groups, here are their responses. Number 1. Recovery perspective was found to be crucial for both maintaining long-term sobriety, especially for drug-dependent youth and youth in conflict with the law. Number 2. Social support and local government support are important, especially among those youth in armed conflict situations and youth with disability, both physical and mental. Number 3. Eradication of stigma and being financially stable so that the youth will not be hindered from seeking help amidst their difficulties. Number 4. For those youth housed in rehabilitation centers and facilities, identifying past improvement and building on these successes were found to be valuable strategies in maintaining their overall growth and recovery. Number 5. Community engagement and cultural beliefs were also noted as important considerations in developing and participating in youth programs by YIP.
Now let's move to the youth's participation in and perceptions about peace building and security in the country. When asked about their sense of security within their community, half of the respondents felt that they were somewhat secure in their area. However, 16.1% reported living in armed conflict areas, and 13.82% expressed low levels of security.
For youth participation in peace-building efforts, 80% expressed interest in participating in barangay-level groups. 50% were aware of organized youth groups responsible for peace and order. Understandably, few hesitated to join these groups because of fear, issues with their parents, and lack of time.
The survey respondents answered questions about their thoughts on their participation in governance. They were also asked on the level of their active participation in different issues and advocacies.
The presidential elections were a turning point for the youth. 91.3% reported themselves as registered voters at the time of the survey. 40% mentioned that their reasons for voting were that they wanted to exercise their right to vote, while 39.6% wanted to choose the country's next leaders. Among those who have not registered to vote at the time of the study, 34.36% mentioned having no time to register. 5% said COMELEC office is too far, while 4.47% cited to have no interest to vote.
The surveyed youth were also aware of the country's electoral challenges, such as vote buying and election-related violence. Despite the youth's awareness of the elections, most respondents did not show interest in political activities in their communities. However, they are aware of their wants and needs when it comes to the government. 69.29% of the respondents are pushing for the implementation of the law against political dynasties. 45.24% believe that clean and honest elections is not possible. 92.05% of youth respondents attributed poverty to the existence of corruption. Only 30.08% believe that vigilance among the youth in reporting corruption can prevent its occurrence. 80.43% of the youth think the government's presence and visibility in implementing projects for youth development are yet to be known and felt in their area.
This shows how the youth participated in protecting their environment, as well as their awareness of its problems and challenges. 85.62% of the youth responders maintained their involvement in different pro-environmental endeavors in the last 5 years. Youth's participation in environmental initiatives are manifested in the following. Practice of the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle. 82.84%. Non-smoking, 76.53%. Water conservation, 75.26%. minimizing the disposal of plastics in the garbage, 75.21%, waste segregation, 74.5%.
The study showed various facets of youth values, attitudes, and behaviors in society. It also told us that the youth are generally aware of the problems and challenges that our country is facing. It presents hope that the youth are determined to help in making a difference.
Let's talk about the youth's participation as a global citizen. Data obtained from the survey show relatively low participation rates among the youth in international youth exchanges for the arts, or 5.7%, and the sciences, 4.3%. When it comes to particular international events or activities open for youth participation, 9.3% of the respondents said they were able to join in youth entrepreneurship and trade fairs at least 3 years before the global lockdown and restrictions in travel. Within the same period, 6% of the surveyed youth participated in student exchange programs and another 4.8% in international outreach programs.
Through this data and information, what's our next step? We see that there are really different complexities when we talk about the youth. NYC is committed to be a strong voice and advocate of the Filipino youth. And the testament to this commitment is the Philippine Youth Development Plan. We believe that every young Filipino deserves the opportunity to reach their full potential, and we are dedicated to working towards creating an environment where they can do just that. The PYDP, as mandated by RA 8044, shall provide a policy direction for the development of our young people. The ultimate goal of the plan is to empower our young people and ensure that their voices are heard and their rights are protected.
In the PYDP 2023 to 2028, there are 10 centers of participation, which contributes to the attainment of the goals and visions of PDP, which is economic transformation for a prosperous, inclusive, and resilient society. Ambisyon natin 2040, which is matatag, maginhawa, at panatag na buhay, and the Sustainable Development Goals. These centers of participation are classified into 4 subgroups or clusters as follows. Number 1. Governance and active citizenship. Number 2. Economic empowerment and global mobility. Number 3. Agriculture and environment. And number 4. Peace building and security, and social inclusion and equity. Since health and education are both concerned with access rights, they may be closely linked to social inclusion and equity.
The PYDP 2023 to 2028 represents a comprehensive and holistic approach to supporting the growth and development of our young people, because we believe that youth development is crucial to this country's future.
We are all potential leaders, innovators, and dream weavers. We are the Filipino youth.